everyone, and welcome to Art Battle in Reno. We are just getting ready to start our very first round of the evening. We have 6 artists up at the easels right now, getting ready to take on the clock. These artists are going to have 20 minutes only on the clock to complete these canvases in front of a live audience. So make sure that you get registered to vote at artbattle.com/AB2486, the link that is on your screen. And we will be starting round number 1 in just a few minutes.
Count to 10. We'll get started. Ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's paint.
Right now, we are looking at an artist who is putting lots of different black line work onto the canvas at first. And I believe that this may be Dale, and we can see that Dale is working, or maybe this isn't Dale. We shall see. We'll have the artist's name up at their easel in just a second, but we can see that they are working with this dark line work and very abstracted pieces right now at this point. Here we are with Dale. And Dale at easel number 1 is starting off with some graphite pencil going down and starting to create their initial drawing for this piece. It's always interesting to see how artists start to formulate their plan going into the art battle timed setting. Some artists like to go in with a sketch to really set their initial intention and to kind of set themselves up for painting for the rest of the round. We can also see that Dale is using a reference, although we're not quite able to see what the reference is yet because it's quite small displayed on the phone there. And here we are with Anela de la Brega. And Nella likes to describe her work as embracing both surreal and realism elements, while also simultaneously incorporating elements of whimsy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Anela brings to the easel tonight. We can see that Anela is off to a great start with tons and tons of paint on the canvas already. Really, really going for it. I think that we are going to be getting some form of landscape. I'm definitely getting the sense of potentially some rocks or cliffs going on, and maybe a little bit of kind of a sunset sky. And Anela is just like absolutely getting so much paint on there initially. I think that this is really commendable because she's filled out so much of her canvas already at this point, and we're only 3 minutes in. Over with Laura here. And Laura is working on what looks like a betta fish. We can see Laura's reference here printed out on paper, and it's this gorgeous, super kind of fluttery betta fish with all of these beautiful colors on a dark background. I'm interested to see whether or not Laura decides to bring that dark background into this piece as well. I think that it provides such a great opportunity for contrast of those colors. Here we are with Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is creating a work that is very, very dark so far. We have lots and lots of black paint and red paint going down on the canvas, which can initially represent a challenge for artists that choose to start off dark. There is the risk of potentially getting into this kind of muddy territory, but Elizabeth definitely is looking like she has a plan. And here we are with Jason Williams. And Jason is an illustrator who loves to do all of these really exaggerated characters with very stylized features. And so I cannot wait to see where this shark from Jason goes. It's already got this very stylized element of very rounded lines. We can see kind of this little smirk going on the shark as well. And we can see that Jason also has a pretty subdued palette hanging out on his cart there. We can see that he's mostly just got white paint, a little bit of black, a little bit of blue. So staying really concentrated and limited in the palette. And I think that he'll be focusing more on form. Here we are with our artist that we were seeing initially in our first go-round. This piece is looking like it's taking on a very cubist kind of style. I believe that this artist is Richard. And Richard's work, when I was checking out his application and getting a chance to review some of the artists before we came on the stream, I was really thinking that Richard's work is very, very interesting in that it was reminding me a lot of stained glass. Richard often is using dark line work and bright colors and intersecting these and creating segments within them as well. So Richard's work definitely reminds me of almost like a cubist stained glass, and we can definitely see some of that influence in here as well. Here we are with Dale, and Dale's work is really taking on this just super passionate color play. We've got all of this red coming from the top of our composition, which I believe is going to end up being a sky, and then it's moving into this yellowy kind of tone that is really giving us those beautiful, strong, perhaps sunrise colors. And we can see that Dale is using Anella over with Anella here, and we are now checking out what initially I thought was going to be a landscape, and now Anella has decided to add some sort of representational element in the foreground here. I think potentially we could be looking at some sort of mantis, like a praying mantis. And it's a really cool and interesting contrast that she's using this really bright, vibrant green against all of the more kind of muted colors that she has going on in the background. Here we are with Laura, back with Laura and her beta fish. And we are correct that Laura is bringing that dark color, that dark black background color from her reference and translating it onto the canvas. And I think that that is just going to be such a beautiful moment within this piece, and it's just going to create so much opportunity for contrast. I think that she's going to have a great ability to blend some of these colors out into the dark background as well, giving us that sense of depth. Starting off with this gorgeous blend of a cerulean, and I can see a little bit of ultramarine blue in there as well. Moving over to Elizabeth. And Elizabeth is still continuing in with this very dark palette, but now we have the reveal of what's going on this canvas. We have the initial emergence of this portrait here, and we can see that that's really being established with the shape that Elizabeth is using to depict the hair here. We've got these gorgeous, super expressive, large, energetic red strokes symbolizing the hair, and then that white void that we were looking at previously that was surrounded by this dark color has now emerged as a face. We can see that it's kind of in almost a 3/4 profile, and we can see the shape of the cheek and the chin, and we have the impression of the nose going on as well in the center of the face. We can see that Elizabeth is now starting to go in with some white and is brightening up the tones within that face there and giving us some of those highlights. Still keeping it very, very expressive, definitely leaning into almost an abstract expressionist style of painting, feeling very intuitive with her brush strokes. Here we are with Jason. And Jason is still working on our amazing little shark here. We've got so many elements of personality coming through with this character, and that's just so true to Jason's original studio style, someone who is an illustrator by trade and is really used to looking for these elements of fun within characters and bringing them out and really choosing which lines to emphasize to create those expressions. So when we're looking at the eye of this shark here, it's really just a little bit of a semicircle, but there's a slight line underneath that suggests like the bag of an eye, and we have the pupil almost looking up to the side. And it's these small little moments that really just establish the character and give the character personality and give us that sense of relatability. Heading back to Richard here and checking out how this abstract still life is coming together. I think that this is just so interesting. It's a fruit bowl. Like, we have all of these different oranges, I think, represented, but they're abstracted, they're taken apart, they're put on all of these different planes, and just, I'm so floored with the efficacy of Richard's style here. He is able to just really drive it home what he's doing with this cubist style of still life painting. And it initially, from the get, that this was just so identifiably Richard's style, Richard's work. And I also am really enjoying that within these planes, the colors are not just flat. We do have small elements of color mixing and tonality within them as well. Not overly so, which is something that I like about it. It just gives us enough, just gives us a little bit of a sense of depth. And so we're really playing with bringing in small elements of realism within this cubist piece. And also very cool to note, as we're looking at Richard completing the piece, we can see that he's also turning it on its side so that we can see how steadily he's able to create those marks. And here we are back with Dale, and Dale is still working on this bird. We are about 5 minutes away from the close of this round, so I really think that Dale is going to be really honing in on the details of this piece. He has his major shapes established, but would really love to see him just bang in some color on those wings and really get those finished as we are moving into our final quarter of the round. And this is really when things start to get tricky within the art battle sphere, because a lot of times artists have really established what they're doing already, and as they get into these final moments, you end up making a lot of decisions on the fly, and so we kind of are in risky territory here in our last few minutes if artists decide to do anything that might not already be within the plan of their piece. And voting is now open, so make sure that you head to artbattle.com/AB2486 and you will vote for your favorite artist in this round. The top 2 artists, as voted by the audience, will move forward into a 4-artist final showdown, joining our top 2 artists from our next round as well. So when you are considering all of the pieces and all of the artists that you've watched in round number 1 and who you want to vote for, not only should you be thinking about whose piece are you enjoying visually the most, but also think about whose performance you enjoyed the most, because you will potentially get to see them paint again in a final round if you vote them forward. This mantis, this mantis is so interesting that Anella has going on. We've also got some elements of personality here as well, with some exaggerated features and the featuring of these little pupils within the mantis's face. And we have this little red figure that's like clinging to the neck of the mantis. Very interested to see what this piece is about and what Anella is initially thinking as she's creating that piece. Here we are with Laura. And Laura working on her beta fish. This has just come together so wonderfully. We have 2.5 minutes remaining on the clock, and we can see that Laura has just managed her time very, very smartly. We've got all of the major components of the beta executed so far. And really all that's left for Laura is just putting in these small details. On one of the fins, we have some white lines of highlight that's really just catching the spines of the fins. And I would love to see that translated into the second fin on the other side, just really evening out that betta fish there. We have just such a wonderful sense of contrast within this piece, and that's really due to Laura choosing to create these shapes and using that blue over top of a very lightly toned ground. Here we are back with Elizabeth, and Elizabeth's portrait continues to evolve and is just giving so much emotion. There's so much expression here, and the darker the portrait has become, the more interesting it becomes as well. There's such a huge emotional component within this piece. We now have only 1 minute remaining on the clock, so make sure that you head over to artbattle.com/AB2486 and cast your vote for your favorite artist. Also, all of the works created tonight are available for silent auction, so we will have them available for you to bid at that link as well. You do not need to be in the room to collect any of these pieces. We will ship them to you. Jason now hitting us with a little bit of color with this kind of lavender color, just adding in some visual interest into the background water here and really harmonizing with the lighter pink that he's got going on in kind of the belly of his shark there. This piece is just so charming. I'm really, really happy that we got a chance to see this piece so up close. All of these stylized elements are so satisfying.
So get ready to count down with me, everybody. Ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Such a fantastic first round for our art battle in Reno tonight. These artists have absolutely painted their hearts out, and it takes a lot of creativity and courage to step up to the easels and create in just 20 minutes in front of a live audience. So make sure that you're supporting these artists with your votes at artbattle.com/AB2486. We will be back super soon with our next 6 artists, with another 6 blank canvases up at the easels and another 20 minutes on the clock. So stay tuned for more live painting awesomeness.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's paint.
All right, we are back for our second round of art battle in Reno tonight. And we have our second set of 6 artists painting live up at the easels right now. They have just 20 minutes on the clock to go from blank to beautiful canvas right in front of your eyes. And you, our audience, are going to vote for the winning artists. So if you're not pre-registered to vote already, head over to artbattle.com/AB2486 and make sure that you sign up and get registered to vote, because it is going to be a fierce competition. I have been checking out these artists, and they are all immensely talented. So I know that we're all really looking forward to seeing what they bring to the easels. All right, we are checking out our wildcard artist right now, and a super fun factor that we love to bring in at Art Battle is the wildcard artist. So a wildcard artist is when we have one open easel, one open spot in the artist lineup, and we invite people to put their names in a hat for the chance to be drawn and to go up to the easel right away and participate in the competition. So this is Katie B, who was drawn from the hat and just got thrown up at the easel. and is throwing it down for us right now. We can see that she's working on, I think, some sort of portrait. I think we've got maybe a stylized clown potentially going on. Lots of blue. I think that we've got some interesting shapes going on here, very exaggerated. This really lovely ultramarine blue here, and you can see just the suggestion of the shape of some eyes and some ruffles around the neck and an orange there. Perhaps some kind of gesture, adding in a little bit of white to kind of tone out the strength of the ultramarine blue there as well. So quite a lot of paint on the canvas already from our wildcard KDB, with just 3.5 minutes elapsed so far. Once again, these guys are going to have 20 minutes only on the clock to go from blank canvas to finished masterpiece, and you guys, the audience, will vote. So make sure that you get registered to vote at artbattle.com/AB2486. And here we are with another artist who is really, really embracing the abstract, going very, very intuitive with how they are creating. We have all of these gorgeous blues and greens and yellows going on, different levels of vibrancy and just transparency as well. And we can see that this artist is using what's called a brayer. A brayer is actually a traditional printmaking tool that is used. It's a roller that's used to move ink around linoleum blocks for printmaking. And so this artist incorporating it into painting is a really interesting technique and is definitely displaying a sense of innovation. I love when we see artists using materials in unconventional ways. I think that that technique is going to be especially thrilling for the audience as they engage with this artist's work. We're seeing lots of kind of curved shapes here, and this artist is moving in a very intuitive way, just kind of following this level of expression here. And I always really enjoy seeing the transition of yellow to green to blue. There's something that's just so satisfying within that. So this is Allison Tomei. And Allison really, really enjoys working in all of these different color transparencies within her work. Here we are with Brenda Bush, and Brenda is an artist who works in alcohol inks. And alcohol inks are kind of a mysterious thing to me. It's a really, really interesting media and something that we are not often seeing at the Art Battle easel. It's kind of a unique media, and definitely takes a very specific skill set. We're actually seeing that Brenda is working with, I think, a heat gun right now, or like a miniature blow dryer to kind of move the ink around the canvas. Here we are with Ray Frost, and they are actually a workshop facilitator at the Generator Makerspace. So definitely a hometown hero here. Representing for Generator's Makerspace. That is the venue that we're at currently, and we can see that they have created this very dark landscape and lots of muted tones within this piece, and then we have that hit of contrast with the moon up in the top corner. And now we can see that they are adding something into the foreground. I think that this is going to end up being our major focal point for the piece. And again, bringing in some needed contrast into the foreground, giving us an opportunity to kind of engage in some narrative play. Here we are with Taburum, and Taburum is an artist that I was so excited to see on the lineup. And this is a very interesting take for me, because usually Taburum is an artist who's working mostly in silhouette. So I'm definitely a little bit surprised to see him working in this extreme mode of color, and really, really looking forward to seeing how all of this plays out. We can see that Taburum is, much like Brenda, working with the canvas on this horizontal ground so that he can really control the flow of the paint. Doesn't necessarily have to deal with the elements of gravity. And so it really allows him to just kind of layer on so much paint without the added challenge of dealing with the dripping. So there's definitely a higher level of control there. And we can also see that there is just so much vibrancy within that piece. Here we are with Piper Lucky. And Piper is also an illustrator and an aspiring character designer. So we, yet again, are having another artist whose focus is taking elements and really exaggerating them and bringing personality in through line work. And we can definitely see that Piper is doing a fantastic job of establishing personality through line work here. We have, I think, a walrus in a big hat right now. And at this point, Piper is drawing entirely in marker. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Piper introduces any additional elements of paint. Sometimes when artists are working in dry media, it can be a bit of a challenge to the audience because they really see everybody else painting, and so they kind of crave that paint. So hopefully Piper doesn't lose any votes because of that. Here we are back with Katie B. And initially what I had thought was going to be a clown, I think is now emerging into being a bird. And we've got this stylized bird looking a little bit forlorn, a little bit sad, sitting on a nest here. So we're definitely getting into that kind of narrative space and wondering what this character is up to, what its inner life looks like, where are these emotions coming from, that kind of thing. And the emotional content of the painting is also underlined by those kind of more muted grayed tones in the background. Back with Allison now, and we can see that Allison is really, really embracing so much texture. And Allison also facilitates soul art therapy, and I think that we can definitely see the influence of art therapy within her work, being that it's so intuitive and flowing and embracing of color and texture. There's just this very physical and emotional modality here. And something that I think that might also be emerging from this piece is potentially a portrait. I think it's upside down right now, but I think that she's going to turn that around and we're going to get a big reveal of a portrait. So really can't wait for that. We might even be getting it right now. Back over with Brenda, and Brenda is still working on this alcohol ink. I think it is a heart or a floral, and once again we're seeing her working with this tiny little air gun. This is so interesting. I don't think that I have ever seen an artist use a tool like this up at the easels, and so I'm really just fascinated by the way that she is using this. And we can see that there's so many different layers of color transparency here. And even with the way that the light is playing on the different inks, they're like changing color with the light and the shine of their own moisture there. Back with Ray, and they have now established a creature in the front foreground of their piece. I think that this is possibly a coyote that may be looking at the moon. And something that's really interesting about Ray's work that I really connected with when I was researching the artists before tonight's event, Ray says that they like to express themes related to mental health and anxiety and gender expression by using animals to kind of personify these feelings and using the Nevada desert as a backdrop. So it really gives us that added layer of understanding of Ray's work. Back over with Terburum, and this piece is coming out in just such a fascinating way. We have so many different layers of color that are being swirled into one another, and this is just such an interesting modality of painting. And now we also have the addition of these metallics that are really setting everything off. I'm especially enjoying the metallics that Taburum is using right up against that super dark blue. There's just such an interesting contrast there. And it's difficult to see with the piece laying down here, but I think that it's actually a person throwing their hands up, riding a horse or a bull. So I hope that we get the opportunity to see that up on the easel by the end of the round. We have just about 5 minutes remaining on the clock in our second round of Art Battle in Reno. 5 minutes remaining only, and voting is now open at artbattle.com/AB2486. So make sure that you get your votes in, support these artists, and also all of the works created tonight are available for silent auction. So make sure that you get your bids in there as well. You don't need to be in the room to collect these works. And our answer to our question about whether or not Piper was going to be introducing any painted elements has been answered, and we now have all kinds of color going down on the canvas, and I think that that is going to provide a good advantage for her over just doing drawing. So really glad to see the additional color elements in there. Moving back over to our wildcard artist here, we can see that Katie has now added some music notes within the piece to kind of drive home that her little bird is singing. We've got lots of texture coming from the nest as well, with all of these different stripes of brown and hits of a little bit of white and yellow within that as well. We have to wonder what this little birdie is singing about. And again, thinking about those lines that emphasize character, we can see that Katie has used that to her advantage as well by just having that curving eyelid line. Just gives us the sense that that bird is singing soulfully. Back to Allison here, and I'm so glad that we got the opportunity to catch this moment of the reveal of the portrait within her abstracted piece. It's been really, really fun to just be along for the ride with Allison as she's created this piece and as it's really emerged. It's been just so thoughtful and engaging to see where she's gone from creating very intuitively to moving into a more figurative space. And I think that that element of engagement and performative quality is going to be a big advantage for her when it comes to votes for the audience. I'm sure that there are lots of audience members that feel very invested in this piece. We have just about 2.5 minutes remaining on the clock. And we are back with Brenda Bush, and Brenda's piece is continuing to take on this layered quality. And really, she's gotten so much of this paint just really radiating outward. And we can also see that she has also incorporated these metallic elements as well. And we can also see that she's still working with this little hairdryer thing here. And now, so every line that she's doing with a piece of, or with a little bottle of ink, is something that she's blowing outward with that tool. Very cool. Back over with Ray, and we can see Ray's night desert landscape with our coyote here. And they also have introduced a few more animals as well. We have, I think, a little red bird here. And we've also got, I think, maybe some bushes in the background as well with some fireflies within them. We can see that they are just working on the wings of that bird now, either a bird or a butterfly, but it's a really great hit of color within that piece. Moving into our very final minute here, and I'm so glad that we get to see Taburam's piece up on the easel. This is so advanced, this piece. I'm so excited seeing it. We can see that the curving head of the bull is all in blue, and we've got these giant horns coming off of its head in gold, and then we have this very triumphant figure just throwing their hands up while riding this bull. This is just such an interesting technique, and just super, really, really engaging. And there's just so much joyfulness within this piece. I really enjoy the way that he has played not only with form, but application and palette as well. This is a really interesting, vibrant palette. All right, our second round has now ended. Congratulations to all 6 artists in round number 2.
Any seconds? And bidding on these amazing paintings. Thank you so much to everyone who painted tonight. We'll be announcing the 4 top competitors for round 3 very shortly.
It wasn't anything. It was the same.
We have just ended our second round of Art Battle in Reno tonight, and voting is open at artbattle.com/AB2486. So make sure that you get your votes in. We are often hearing from our voting managers that it can be a really, really tight race. So every single vote truly does count. So think about which piece is your favorite from round number 1, from round number 2, which artist's performance was your favorite, and make your decision at artbattle.com/AB2486. We also have all of the works created tonight available for silent auction at that same link. So make sure that you get in there and bid early and bid often. You don't need to be in the room to collect these pieces. We will ship them to you. We will be back with our winner announcement in just a few minutes. So make sure that you stay tuned, and you will hear who are our top 4 artists who are going to be moving forward to our third and final showdown round. Stay tuned. Winner announcement coming in just a few minutes. All right, the clock is ticking on our third and final round of Art Battle in Reno tonight. Up at the easels, we have Laura Finoccario, Elizabeth Zisking, Allison Tomei, and Taburam Sandagorj. Very, very excited to see these 4 artists moving into the final round, and I know that we are just in for such a treat. These guys have already displayed such courage and creativity up at the easels tonight so far, and I, for one, am just really, really looking forward to seeing what they bring to the final round. Once again, Laura was our artist in round number 1 who did that very dark, expressive portrait with red hair. Laura was our beta fish artist who did that really beautiful high contrast beta fish. Elizabeth was the expressive redheaded portrait. In round number 2, moving forward, Allison Tomei, who did that very intuitive abstract painting that took us all by surprise and became quite figurative and became a portrait. And the artist that we're looking at right now, Taburum, who painted the very joyful scene of a person riding a bull with just so much boldness and vibrancy. So here we are back with Laura, and Laura has brought a second reference. I love the confidence. Laura was prepared. Laura thought that she was going to be getting to the final, and here we are. It is proven true, and her careful planning is going to be such an asset for her as well. So we can see that Laura has this really gorgeous floral reference going on, and already in just our first 2 minutes has established the drawing, has established the proportions, is already working on toning out the background. Laura did not come to play today. She is here to win it, and definitely just doing such careful time management as well. Here we are with Elizabeth, and I think that we're going to be seeing something in a similar color palette from Elizabeth, given that she is working in red yet again. Although this time around we're seeing her kind of toning out her canvas with this red, and really putting a lot of water onto the canvas as well. So that's going to be something that is a very specific strategy that she's using to create a lot of slip within the canvas, and something that is going to be, I would think, a challenge to work over top of. But Elizabeth, I'm sure, is being very intentional with the amount of moisture that she's putting on the canvas right now, as a means of creating a higher level of mobility for her paint in her top rounds, or top layers. Here we are moving over to Allison, and wow, so much going on the canvas already, so much super engaging texture. I would love to see the tool actually that Allison is using for this piece with all of these really interesting lines going on. I'm wondering whether or not that could potentially be like a drywalling tool. We've seen artists use that sometimes to create texture that is similar to that, or maybe a silicone wedge with cutouts in it. And even just me doing commentary here and wondering what Allison is using for her different tools is something that the audience has got to be doing as well. So there's that level of engagement there. And here we are with Taburum, and I think that we're going to be getting something that is very monochrome from him this time. We can see that the little palette that he's holding there has only black paint on it. So I'm wondering whether or not he's going to be doing a totally monochrome piece. As I was talking about in his qualifying round, Taburum is famous for being a silhouette artist. So an artist who is cutting out of paper, cutting out of black paper, and using silhouettes. So it's such a unique skill set. I really encourage everyone to go to the Art Battle Reno Instagram page and check out all of these artists, and you will get a chance to see their studio work once you see their Instagram, and then you can kind of contrast that to what they're doing up at the easels now and how their work translates within that 20-minute time frame. It really just gives you that added layer of depth and appreciation for what these guys are creating right now, because you get to recognize elements of their studio practice and what their normal style is and how they kind of distill that. And really simplify their visual languages to represent in this shortened amount of time. Back with Laura here, working on her floral, and previously I was really excited about the black background that she'd chosen for that beta fish in her first round qualifying piece, but I am seeing a dark background on her reference piece, but she's actually using this gorgeous sienna color in the background in the piece that she's actually painting. So I kind of hope that she keeps it that beautiful light golden color. It's really just setting off the violet hues that she's putting into the flowers. Back with Elizabeth here, and we're seeing Elizabeth is starting to add in some of those dark colors as well, bringing more of that black into the piece. And at this point, I am wondering whether or not Elizabeth is going to be moving into another portrait. I'm kind of feeling like within the drips, I'm seeing a face, maybe with closed eyes, but that could just be my brain kind of seeking out to map this piece out so that I can figure it out earlier. That's always kind of the challenge when artists start a little bit more abstract. It's the really, really fun challenge of seeing a piece emerge from something that you didn't expect. And Allison, being our queen of creating things that you didn't expect and working with that kind of emerging quality, is back at it again with all of these intuitive strokes, really leaning into the color play and adding different color temperatures this time. We've got a little bit more variance than in her first round qualifying piece. We have lots of reds present as well as the cooler colors. And we can see that Allison is also, I think, maybe adding in an eye here, potentially, and we can check out that brayer that she's working with again. If anyone missed my commentary in her qualifying round piece, a brayer is traditionally a printmaking tool that's used to push ink onto linoleum blocks and things like that. And so seeing her using this tool in an unexpected way that's related to painting is very interesting, and I think it's going to be extremely engaging for the audience as well. So initially, I thought that Tiburon was going to be going totally black and white for this piece, but then we look over his cart, and his cart is just absolutely chock full of every single color that you could even ever think of. So we really could go any way with this piece, and we are approaching our halfway mark. We have just about 11 and a half minutes remaining in our final round of Art Battle in Reno. And voting is open, so head over to artbattle.com/AB2486. Bidding is also open now for these works, so you don't need to be in the room to collect these pieces. We will ship them to you if you win the auction. So if you're falling in love with any of these pieces as you're watching them being created, make sure that you get in there and support those artists in the auction. Back over with Laura and our gorgeous florals here. Something that I'm really enjoying about Laura's work is how loose she is keeping these shapes. There's this painterly quality that she's got going on right now, which I'm really enjoying. And when I say painterly quality, what I mean is that there are lots of evident brush strokes. Nothing is overly too blended out. And it just really retains that kind of physical quality of the paint, and gives us almost this kind of post-impressionist technique from her, where the colors are not overly blended together, they're just kind of sitting beside each other, and there's something that's really beautiful about that. Heading back over to Elizabeth here, and I think that perhaps we were correct and that we're going to be getting a portrait emerging from this piece. Elizabeth is just sketching in some eye sockets, the impression of a nose as well again, and similar profile to her qualifying round piece in that we have this kind of slight turning of the head, almost in total profile, but just turned back just slightly so that it's making eye contact with the audience, which I think is, it's actually one of my favorite portrait poses. There's something that's kind of penetrating about that, the way that a three-quarter portrait can kind of catch the gaze and create that eye contact. Back with Allison. And Allison has chosen to blend out all of these colors by using that, it looks like she's used that same scraping tool. And it's created this really, really interesting effect that almost looks like the way that she's blended it, and with all of these linear strokes, this is really starting to look like an oil pastel painting. And for me, that's very cool to kind of subvert the media that you're using and make it look like something else. Back over with Taburum here, and we have definitely gotten into super colorful territory, and he is just being so careful with the way that he's laying these down, doing such a fantastic job of keeping the color right up against that black line work, but not getting muddy in any way. I think that there's been some very careful time management here from Taburum in the way that he's segmented his time, and initially creating all of the black line work for this character and then waiting for it to dry and mixing his colors and getting all of his colors planned out before applying them to the canvas. So really he doesn't have to worry about muddying up any of those colors at all, which is such a great strategy given the difference of vibrancy and transparency there. Those colors would be really, really easy to just pick up that little hint of black and just ruin the whole thing. But he's being so careful and has done such a great job at choosing when to layer those on. Back with Laura here, and I'm so happy that at least up until this point, our 7-minute mark, this gorgeous sienna color has chosen to stay. I am just really enjoying the color play of the blue against that color, against that gorgeous warm hue. And the way that the green is almost acting kind of as a bridge between the blue and the yellow, because it is blue and yellow, and it's such a great subtle way to kind of harmonize that piece by using that green. Back over with Elizabeth here, and Elizabeth has chosen a short-haired character at this point. And again, just definitely really, really leaning into this kind of expressionist space. And Elizabeth really likes to kind of expand within the canvas and create these kind of wild compositions that just kind of take up so much energetic space. But I am hoping a little bit that she leaves some of that drip work up at the upper corner, because I just think it's so beautiful. And again, my brain just wants to think that this is an oil pastel piece so badly, just because my brain feels like all of these linear lines and the way that these colors are kind of diffused, it just feels like oil pastel to me. There's something about it. And I think that we're actually starting to get into the figurative space that Allison likes to create, where she goes from creating this very intuitive, flowing abstract piece into layering representational elements over top of it. So I think that we're starting to get into that space now. But it has not yet been revealed what that representational element will be. Over with Taburum, and the addition of all of these colors, just really, really intensely joyful. So intuitive in the way that he chooses these colors, and all of these unexpected color combinations too, like this gorgeous orangey yellow right up against that neon like chartreuse around the head. It's just so cool, so unexpected. I never would have thought to pair those two colors together, and yet here they are, and they're just making such an incredible graphic impact. And we have all of these stylized lines of the character as well. Tiburon has a wonderful ability to combine angularity with curves in just the right way. And it's so identifiable of his style across different media. Back over with Laura, and Laura is just adding in her finishing touches on these beautiful florals. We're getting that little hit of yellow within the petals, just kind of peeking out there. And they've picked up a little bit of the blue underneath. Now we can see that she's adding on just these tiny little hits of highlight on the outermost edges of the petal and really bringing it into that kind of 3D space. Back over with Elizabeth, and I gotta say I'm pretty pleased. I'm pretty happy that all of that drip work up in the edge has remained so far. I think that it's just such a great balancing counterpoint to how dark the portrait is. There's so much weight and heaviness and emotionality within the portrait and within that side of the canvas. It's really a great balancing counterpoint to have that kind of breadth and lightness and texture within the top corner there with all of that dripping drip work. Back over with Allison here, and we can now start to see the emergence of a figure. We're kind of getting this face that is just kind of peering out of all of this color. And I like that it's so subtle. We basically just have the impression of the brow bone and the jawline and that little bit of shadow underneath the nose. And I think the level of abstraction that Allison is retaining within that is really beautiful. And I feel that by not making it overly obvious, it continues to be a point that is engaging for the audience. I think that this is a highly collectible piece that anyone would have in their home and just continue to get more and more out of it with every viewing. We are headed into our final minute of Art Battle in Reno, our final minute of the final round. One artist will emerge victorious at the end of this round. So make sure that you vote for your favorite artist at artbattle.com/AB2486. Tiburon, just killing it with this piece. And I've really enjoyed how he's left so much white space within the figure as well. And now with all of these kind of stylized lines around all of the musculature, we're getting an opportunity to get even further into that stylized line work that Tiburon is known so well for.
All right.
An absolutely fantastic finale for the night of Art Battle in Reno. A huge congratulations and thank you to all 12 of our artists who participated tonight. It takes a lot of courage and creativity to step up to the easel and share your work. And I cannot wait to see who out of our final 4 artists is going to be declared the winner. And that one winner will move on to the Reno Regional Final, taking place next season. So stay tuned. Our winner announcement will be coming up in just a few minutes. And I would love to hear from you guys in the room, who you're voting for, whose performance you thought was amazing, which pieces you gravitated towards, if there were any special moments that you enjoyed on the stream tonight. We would love to hear from you guys. And a huge congratulations as well to our team in Reno. This is their second event of the season, and really just beautifully executed, really well run event. So kudos to them. And if you are in the area, we have another date on the clock or on the calendar as well, I believe. So make sure that you stay tuned to the Art Battle Reno Instagram, and you will be able to see upcoming dates there as well. So if you are watching with us in the stream and you want to attend in person, make sure that you go there. And also, if you're watching on the stream and you're not local to Reno, we do have events all over the country. We have them all over the world. So head over to artbattle.com and you can check out all of the different events happening all over the globe. Tomorrow we actually have an event coming up in London, UK, and we've got 12 absolutely fantastic artists lined up for that show. They really throw it down in London, so make sure that if you're enjoying the stream and you want more live art goodness, hang out with us on the stream tomorrow for London. Your winner announcement for Art Battle in Reno coming up in just a few short minutes.
It's fun. It's homecoming.
All right, a huge congratulations to Elizabeth Zisk King, our winner of the second Art Battle in Reno event. Two very expressive, emotional, and engaging portraits, and a very well deserved win for Elizabeth. Elizabeth will be moving on to the city finals taking place next year, date to be determined, where she will face off against all of the other Reno winners from this season. We have more dates on the calendar coming up in May and June, so make sure that you stay tuned to the Art Battle Instagram to get those dates. And a huge congratulations as well has to go out to our team on the ground in Reno for their second event. Such a well-run show, and big congratulations to our team on the ground there, and of course to our streaming operator, Aki, and for everyone that joined us on the stream, to our audience, and to all 12 artists that participated tonight. If you are interested in becoming an artist who paints in Art Battle, go to artbattle.com/artists. We take artist applications all the time, and we would love to see your work. We have shows all across the globe. Tomorrow we will be on the stream for Art Battle in London, so make sure that you stay tuned. We will be on the stream for Art Battle in London at 8 p.m. BST. So make sure that you head over there and check us out and see what London is throwing down tomorrow. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us, and stay tuned for more awesome Art Battle events.